$2.8 million women work as maids in the Middle East. Many have their passports confiscated on arrival, and some find themselves trapped inside homes where they're overworked, underpaid, and physically abused.
The video you just seen was a clip from a video done on women employed and living under the kafala system, which is very much used throughout the Arabian Peninsula and is in a way slavery by another name in the modern era. But before we talk more about that system, I want to go backwards a little bit and talk about how slavery, outright slavery, ended in Saudi Arabia. You see, following World War II, the United Nations declared slavery a crime against humanity. The British Anti-Slavery Society went before the United Nations and started really publicizing the slavery that was still happening on the Arabian Peninsula in the mid-20th century. However, the American and British governments opposed the movement of opposing slavery in the West Asian area. Why? Because they have been deeply allied with Saudi Arabia since the early 20th century. Basically, in return for oil and foreign policy support, the United States gives a lot of military assistance to Saudi Arabia. In 1957, the Eisenhower administration sought out Saudi Arabia as an ally against the Soviet Union and Egypt. You know, Cold War things. But King Saud's visit to America raised a lot of uproar because he brought some of his enslaved people with him. And the Black American press completely called this out, calling King Saud the slave king, speaking about how could America partner with this person in this nation, and they denounced his visit. So it was basically growing domestic and international pressure in the 1950s and 1960s that caused America and Britain to change their course when it came to slavery within the Arab world. Of course, the Western nations weren't altruistic with this. They had all their other dirt that they were doing. Of course, they had done so much subjection and oppression that they were living off of in the modern era and still carrying out violent imperialism. But this was much too bold of a statement of injustice, especially following what had happened in World War II. So Kennedy basically let Saudi Arabia know, you're going to have to quote unquote modernize or end the slave trade if you want to continue to get our military assistance. And so Saudi Arabia finally abolished the slave trade in 1962. However, Saudi Arabia and other nearby countries continued this practice of slavery in a different way through the kafala system, which takes this cheap labor from Southeast Asia and Africa and exploits them.